Good morning, everyone. The time is now 10:11, and I will call the April 23rd Planning Board meeting to order. We have the following board members with us today. Vice Chair Giraldo.
Good morning, everyone.
Commissioner Matthews.
Good morning, everyone.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Good morning.
And I'm Chairman Barnes. Commissioner Okoye is on travel. We will move forward with the business at hand. Please note that the deadline for all pre-registration and for all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on Tuesday.
Free. Apologies, I need your follow-ups.
Yeah. The order of cases for today's meeting is as follows. Items 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The first item on the agenda is item 2, draft minutes of April 16th. We look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes of the meeting.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. There are no legislative updates on the agenda for this week. We will move forward with the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items 4A and 4D. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the staff recommendation on the consent agenda? If not, what's your motion?
Mr. Chair, after consideration of the record for items numbers 4A and 4D, I move the adoption of the staff findings and approval of the items on the consent agenda in accordance with the recommendations of staff.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. I will call the roll. Vice Chair
I
Giraldo.
vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. We will move on to the regular agenda items. The first item on the agenda is item number 5. Conceptual Site Plan CSP-24001, Southern Hills. We will now hear from my main guy, Mr. Hunt.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the member of Planning Board. For the record, my name is Emery Huang with Urban Design Section. The item before you is the item number 5 on the agenda, Conceptual Site Plan CSP-24001 for Southern Hills, which proposes a mixed-use development. Next slide, please. Next slide. The site is located in the planning area 76-8 and the council district 7. Next slide, please. Geographically, the subject site is located on the south side of the Southern Avenue and the north and south side of the Wither Hills Road, and is in the vicinity of the Southern Avenue Metro Station. Next slide, please. The image to the right on the screen shows that the subject site is located within the residential multifamily 20 and the residential single-family 65 zones. However, this conceptual site plan is reviewed in accordance with the prior zoning ordinance, under which the site is within the mixed-use transportation-oriented, multifamily medium-density residential, one-family detached residential zones, as shown on the image to the left on the screen. The slides also show the property zone multifamily medium-density residential and one-family detached residential are less than 2% of the land assembled by this conceptual site plan. Next slide, please. This slide shows that subject property is located within the development district overlay zones under the prior zoning ordinance. Since the subject site is located within the mixed-use transportation-oriented zones, a conceptual site plan and a detailed site plan shall be approved for all uses and improvements in accordance with Section 27-546 of the prior zoning ordinance. And because the applicants request amendment to the approved development district overlay zone, a site plan, either a detailed site plan or a conceptual site plan, is required in accordance with Section 27-54A 26B2C of the prior zoning ordinance. As such, the applicants files subject conceptual site plan, which is the first stage of the overall development, and established the concept of land use, building locations, circulation, and open space. The next stage of this development will be preliminary plan of subdivision, which defines layouts of lots, roads, utilities, and environmental features, and confirm that the sites can be legally subdivided. The subject development will end with a detailed site plan, which provides final building design, parking, landscaping, and lighting, and must be approved before most construction permits are issued. In addition, with this conceptual site plan, the applicants request an amendment to the Development District Overlay Zone use table to permit multifamily and townhouses uses within the multi-family medium density residential and Development District Overlay Zones, as well as one-family detached residential and Development District Overlay Zones to be developed according to the mixed-use transportation-oriented zone regulation. Next slide, please. This map illustrates the topography of the site and demonstrates the location of the environmental features within it. Next slide, please. The subject site funds 3 roads, of which either roads is classified as corridors, as shown on the screens. Next slide, please. This conceptual site plan is for a mixed-use development consisting of 980 multi-family dwelling units, 150 senior housing units, 168 townhouse units, and approximately 45,000 square feet of commercial, retail, and medical office space. This slide illustrates the conceptual location of these proposed uses, as well as roadways and the future recreational facilities. Next slide, please. The conceptual circulation plan shows the sidewalks on both sides of the existing and the proposed roads, which form a pedestrian network throughout the site. Since the subject site is located in proximity to the Southern Avenue Metro Station, the applicants would like to provide a pedestrian connectivity directly to the Metro Station through continual collaboration with the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority. Next slide, please. This slide shows the Type 1 tree conservation plan submitted with this subject conceptual site plan. An analysis of the step findings on the Type 1 tree conservation plan can be found on pages 34 through 37 of the technical step report. What impact is proposed to the primary management areas, which states analysis on pages 46 through 47. In addition, the applicants requested a variance to remove 19 specimen trees on site and 3 specimen trees off site. An analysis of step findings on the requested variance can be found on pages 37 through 42 of the technical step report, recommending the planning board approves the removal of 17 specimen trees on site and denies the request for 2 specimen trees on site and 3 specimen trees off site. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Based on the finding presented in the technical step report, urban design staff recommends the planning board adopt the finding of this report and first, approve the property owner's request to permit the use of townhouses and multi-family dwellings within the one-family detached residential and the development district overlay zones, and multi-family medium density residential and the development district overlay zones on the subject property to develop according to the mixed-use transportation-oriented and development district overlay zone regulation. Second, approve conceptual site plan CSP-24001, Type 1 tree conservation plan TCP1-001-2025, and the variance to section 25-122B1G as recommended by the staff and specified in the technical staff report for Southern Hills, subject to the recommended condition of approval within the technical staff report. This concludes staff presentation. Thank you.
Are there any questions from this planning board? What's that? Seeing none, we will now hear from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Holland.
Thank you. Can all who seek to speak on this item please stand if you're able, raise your right hand so we can swear you in. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. Thomas Howlett, attorney with offices in Largo, and I'm here today representing the owner and applicant in this application, Southern Hills LLC. I have with me today Mr. Mike Alexander, who is one of the principals with the applicant, as well as Barry Cason with the engineering firm of Ben Dyer Associates, and Mr. Mike Lenhart is online available to answer any questions. If I could ask, Steph's already put that up. I just wanted to have the aerial photograph put up. As staff indicated, this is the first step in a multi-step process that we're going to go through. This is a conceptual site plan. The owner of the property has a long-term vision for this property. They actually acquired the property about 12 years ago, in 2014, the bulk of the property. When they acquired the property, it had the remnants of a failed proposed development of a megachurch, and it had constructed about 2,000 parking spaces on the property. So it was pretty much a sea of asphalt when they acquired it. And so they have been working to try to set the stage for the future development of the property. They acquired the property for two primary reasons. One was the proximity to the Southern Avenue Metro Station. They saw the promise that provided to the property. But they also acquired it because of the zoning that was in place at that time, which was the MXT zone. And the MXT zone is probably one of the most flexible zones that existed in the prior zoning ordinance. And so in order to allow them to have the time to properly develop this property, one of the things that they did was they came in 2019 with a mandatory referral application before the planning board to seek approval to construct a solar facility over top of the asphalt parking lots that had been constructed on the property. If you look at the aerial photograph, you can see that the solar facility currently exists. And the solar facility helps to generate sufficient income for them to pay the taxes and allow them to have a long-term vision for the property, which is their goal. The second thing that they have been working on is that the northern part of the property at the very top is immediately adjacent to land owned by the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, where the metro station is. And there's actually an old dedicated public right-of-way that extends from Southern Avenue and dead ends into this property that would potentially allow for a vehicular and pedestrian bicycle connection directly to the metro station. They've worked with WMATA and actually a couple of years ago acquired an additional 9 acres adjacent to that roadway. And they will need to continue to work with WMATA over a period of time in order to ultimately be able to make a connection. But that is, again, part of the long-term vision of the property, and they're continuing to work with WMATA in order to try to achieve that. The property that they own, and this is a somewhat unique circumstance in that they own now almost 110 acres adjacent to the Southern Avenue Metro Station. The application that's before you includes 84 of that 110 acres. The reason that it doesn't include the entire property is because when the sector plan was adopted for this area, the MXT zone and the development district overlay zone were only imposed on that 85 acres. There's additional land further to the south that was placed in a single-family residential zone and cannot be developed under those regulations. But that will still be a potential future development area at some point in the future. But the ultimate goal is to set the stage for the ability to develop a transit-oriented development that is consistent with both the sector plan as well as the general plan. They are excited about some of the changes that are coming. There is a development that the planning board recently approved called the Promise that we have had many conversations with their consultants, and our plan anticipates pedestrian and bicycle connection to that property consistent with the planning board's decision in that case. And there's also a future grocery store development proposed adjacent to this property. And as those developments come to fruition, it will set the stage for them to be able to begin development of their property. The portion of the property that does not have the solar facilities on it would be eligible for the phase 1 development, and then as time progresses and they end up advancing their discussions with WMATA for the pedestrian, vehicular, and bicycle connections, they'll be able to develop the area that's currently has the solar on, because the solar was always intended to be an interim use until they could eventually develop the property fully. I would be remiss if I did not thank your staff, Ms. Connor, Mr. Wong, and environmental planning section have worked with us to create and to really help us refine the long-term vision for the property. So I want to thank them. And so I stand here before you today in full agreement with staff's recommendation and all of their conditions. We have no proposed revisions to offer. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, and we're looking forward to a very successful transit-oriented development.
I just had a couple of questions before I open it up. How long have you all been working on this project?
They acquired the property originally in 2014, and this specific application they've been working on since probably 2024.
Okay. So from 2014, what I am trying to do is figure out how do we speed up the development project. Right? You have come before talk to my planning director and the county executive on projects that are not moving in a timely manner, or the master plan is not conformative to or conducive to how you want to move. So I'm just trying to understand. This has been going on now for almost 12 years. What's the holdup?
Well, I would say for this project, it's predominantly market. In other words, there's a couple of factors. Number one is when you look at the property just in isolation, it is essentially surrounds a suburban cul-de-sac, which would not be conducive to transit-oriented development. But what the applicants have been working on is acquiring land and working with WMATA to provide that direct connection. Anything you do dealing with WMATA takes time. They are not a fast agency. So they've spent years developing that relationship and working. Like I said, they've acquired 9 acres from WMATA already, and will continue to work with them in order to provide that connection. So that's part of it. So if they were to try to develop this property without that connection, then it would not be of the type of development that the sector plan envisions or that the county wants. They don't want to settle for something less than what this area deserves. And so it's not been because the county is the county. This is not a situation where the county's process has prevented it. It's about doing the right thing at the right time. And so they're looking to build on some of the momentum of other projects that have gotten ahead of them, which is perfectly fine. And they are also looking to continue to work with the governmental agencies like WMATA to ensure that connection occurs. So, sometimes people come into the county and say, well, this is the best I can do. It's all I've got to work with. We're trying to do more than that. We're trying to do something that is truly responsive to the desires of the county to take advantage of the proximity of this property to the metro station. And so the time, that's why they did the solar facility, so that they could be patient and do it right and not rush and just do something that just settle on what they could get. And that's really why it's taken so long.
So for 12 years, we haven't seen a lot of movement. We're trying to make sure we get it right. So when do we expect a shovel in the ground or a
Well, as I said, the first phase, there's 2 parcels of land where there are solar facilities on. If you look at the aerial photograph, there's property that is on the south side of Wheeler Hills Road, and there's property that's that fronts on Southern Avenue. And so once this conceptual site plan gets approved, they'll be able to take it out to market and find what interest there is for the development of those properties. Those are immediately eligible for development. If there's interest in doing the right kind of development for those properties, we could come in with a preliminary plan of subdivision later this year, early next year, with the idea of hopefully having a site plan approved by the end of next year. So that would be the short-term goal. And again, the long-term goal is to continue to work with WMATA. There are severe topographic challenges as well that need to be worked out. That's why just the land they've acquired from WMATA isn't enough. They need to work with WMATA to use other property that WMATA owns is not willing to sell in order to make those connections. So that's going to be more of a long-term negotiation in order to have that be achieved. But they're committed to that long-term relationship and that long-term development goal.
Yeah, listen, since I've been here, and I tell folks, I'm approving cases, but I see very little movement. And this is one that concerns me simply because of the years that it has gotten to us to get to a point where we're looking at a conceptual site plan. And I know that I approved a similar property that had a connection to this. Can you explain that?
The promise?
Yeah.
So yes, the promise is a project that was approved by the planning board a few years ago, obtained approval of a detailed site plan. And as I understand it, that detailed site plan was either expiring or had expired and then needed to obtain reapproval. And when they came in, there was as I understand it, a concern with staff about trying to provide partial interconnectivity, which is a element of the new zoning ordinance that wasn't as emphasized in the prior ordinance. And so the planning board, they had already an established infrastructure of mostly private roads, not public roads. And so they were concerned about connectivity and liability. And so we were having conversations with them. We were more than willing to provide the pedestrian and bicycle connections. The vehicular connection is a much more complicated thing. And so the planning board ultimately approved that development, required that they allow for access of bicycle and pedestrian connectivity, which we are agreeing to as part of this development to ensure that occurs. And so the two developments will eventually, when the area where the solar is developed, will have that connectivity.
And I hope so, because from your words, we're taking our time to make sure that we get it right. And that's one of those things that I think the community deserves, that I am hoping that over time we get that part of that connection done and we can move on. But I know that there are some other questions. I don't want to monopolize this conversation. Are there any other questions from the panel?
I have questions. Now, I think two.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I understand it's unfortunate, and I understand the frustration when I see the things coming out of the ground, but unfortunately, WMATA has not always had the vision for developing the metro sites in Prince George's County, unlike what they developed in Montgomery County and Virginia. So it's only now because we have so many metro sites that the light came up. I voted against the promise because I wanted to have the connectivity by vehicle as well, but I was overruled because I considered the vehicle being just as important, but understanding that you do have an agreement with the promise to have the pedestrian and the trail and the bicycle. Am I right?
We don't have a formal agreement, but their application is conditioned on accepting us, and our application is conditioned on connecting to them. So yes, we do have that.
Tell me, so once this project is done, what will be the connectivity to the Southern Avenue Metro?
So as I mentioned, I don't know if there's another image that shows a broader area where you can see it. Maybe the conceptual site plan. If you go down 3 or 4 slides. So many years ago, there was actually a road called Southeast Expressway, which was actually a dedicated 70-foot right-of-way that extended from Southern Avenue to the north. You can see, hold on. So there's actually a dedicated right-of-way that extends from Southern Avenue to this property. And so the concept is to allow for a roadway connection, which would include pedestrian and bicycle connection from the northern part of our property into the Southern Avenue Metro Station. Now, it may not end up being within the footprint of that roadway because of topography when WMATA was constructed, the tracks actually cut across the edge of that. But we, like I said, we've developed a relationship with WMATA, acquired some property to WMATA, and as part of the ultimate development of the property, we hope to provide that vehicular connection directly to the WMATA parking lot, which would then allow not only vehicular connectivity, but also bicycle and pedestrian. And to the extent that the promise has direct frontage on Southern Avenue, they could walk right up to the metro station, but they could theoretically also walk through our property if it turned out to be more convenient for them to do so.
I have a quick question, and thank you for this. Mine is around the solar panels, and I feel like we touched on it a couple times, but just want to clarify, the solar panels will remain in place until that's part of like the phase development here.
That's correct. It was they were constructed as an interim use to provide income to the property owner to be able to respond to the market in a patient manner. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes when we go to community meetings, one of the things we hear from members of the community is, well, you just want to come in and go out, just making money as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. This ownership group has demonstrated a long-term commitment to the property and a long-term commitment to doing it right. The solar panels will be there until the market is right to be able to develop the property. And so it is not a permanent fixture and was never intended to be a permanent fixture. It's simply up to facilitate the long-term development vision of the property.
Okay, that sounds good. So, and when we talk about long-term, I mean, that feels like, sort of indefinite, right? Like we have no idea that could be the last thing that is transformed in this particular development, depending on like the market and reasons for usage of that area. So, just want to think about that as you're thinking about like the areas that you're building around it and the homes and things like that. Like if it's like where it lies in the priority of development in that particular area.
I think a lot of it has to do with whether we're able to secure the ability to connect.
Right.
Obviously, as they develop the portions of the property where the solar isn't in, their goal is going to be to develop that property with residential product that doesn't in any way, shape, or form hinder the long-term vision of the property. They want to do it right.
Yeah.
And then as the connectivity is able to be established and people come in and say, yeah, we want to be there, then that will then put them in a position where they can remove the solar panels and develop the property. But speaking to the chairman's earlier comments about the time in the process, once they identify a user and go forward, it's still going to take a couple of years to get to the point where anything can be built. And those solar panels can remain there and continue to provide income to support the development vision for the property until that time occurs.
Yeah, and it also sounds like a lot of it is contingent on this connectivity, right? I think that's sort
the
of
value of this property is tied to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the vision of it is tied to that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a question. Through the connectivity, will additional streets be required through this connectivity?
Well, one of the things that staff, and this is when I thank staff, is that our original plan showed development areas, but it didn't show a true concept for where the roads would go. And one of the things that the sector plan encourages and that staff really helped us to focus on is to provide a grid street pattern. And so if you look at the plan, you'll see a series of streets laid out in there in order to provide additional connectivity. And conceptually, connectivity, many, many years ago, this whole property was farmed and there was actually a connection going all the way down to Wheeler Road. Mm-hmm. That may not be able to be achieved now based on environmental restraints that didn't exist back then. But the idea is to provide connectivity. Another thing that, if you looked in the backup, is we've had extensive conversations with the Department of Parks and Recreation. They own parkland to the south of this property. And so they've expressed an interest in acquiring some of the property to expand the Stream Valley dedication. But they have some land that they have no use for that's behind some state-owned land. And you can see how we showed potential connectivity that would go across the park and planning property. So we're in conversations with them about potentially doing a land swap that would increase the acreage that they have adjacent to the Stream Valley Park and allow us to create that grid street connectivity through the site. So the goal is to have multiple ways of moving around the site and to be able to access Wheeler Road or the metro station Southern Avenue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
And my last question, Ms. Jenkins asked about the solar panels. And you mentioned that the community has stated you all want to get in and get out and make your money. Who benefits from the solar energy from the solar panels?
I believe that this, I can ask Mr. Alexander to address where the power goes from.
Power goes back into the grid.
Okay. So the community is seeing a benefit from that?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what it is?
I do not know off the top of my head, but it does go back into the grid. We're not using any of it on site, so anything that is generated goes back into the grid.
And because of this, I just want to note that because of the size of the property that we were able to devote, or those old parking lots were, a lot of the solar projects that you see are community solar projects that are about a 2 megawatt size. This is an 8 megawatt facility, so it's a larger facility, puts more electricity into the grid.
All right. Are there any other questions? I see none that has signed up in opposition. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve conceptual site plan CSP-24001, Type 1 Tree Conservation Plan TCP1-001-2025, with variance from section 25-122B1G to the extent agreed to by staff and the applicant, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
I second.
It's been properly moved to second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. The next item on the agenda is item number 6, preliminary plan of subdivision PPS-2022-036, Glenview re-subdivision. We will hear from Mr. Bartlett.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Jason Bartlett of the subdivision section. Item number 6 on the agenda is a preliminary plan of subdivision for Glenview re-subdivision, PPS-2022-036. This case was presented on March 26, 2026 and continued to April 9, 2026. Ms. Flanagan, if we could move to slide 6, please, of the presentation.
It's not up yet.
Open this on me.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan. If we could move to slide 6, please. Thank you. Apologies for the delay. This subdivision proposes 3 lots and 1 parcel for single-family detached residential and 12,180 square feet of institutional development. It is further associated with an approved certificate of adequacy, ADQ-2022-089, which was approved in accordance with the subdivision regulations to ensure that the infrastructure necessary to support the proposed development are adequate in accordance with the established level of service standards. At the March 26, 2026 Planning Board hearing, the subdivision staff recommended the Planning Board adopt the findings and approve preliminary plan of subdivision PPS-2022-036, Type 1 Tree Conservation Plan TCP1-2022-001, as well as the variance request from Section 25-122 B1G, subject to the conditions in the technical staff report. At the April 9, 2026 Planning Board hearing, staff provided no additional comments on the case. However, the applicant proffered a condition to provide site-type fencing along the shared property line with the abutting single-family homes that was read into the record. The evidentiary hearing was then closed, and the Planning Board's final decision was deferred to today, April 23, 2026, in order to obtain input from the Department of Permitting, Inspection, and Enforcement, or DPI, on the requirements for timing of road construction. On April 17, 2026, staff received a second review memo from the State Highway Administration, or SHA, to the applicant's traffic consultant dated April 13, 2026, which confirmed SHA's approval of the applicant's traffic impact study, which includes the connection of Kindred Drive to MD 450. As a reminder, Diablo Avenue and Kindred Drive are currently dedicated but unbuilt public rights-of-way. The application proposes additional road dedication to extend Kindred Drive to Maryland 450, which will provide the most direct connection to the subject site. Staff met with DPI on April 14th and April 17th, 2026. These meetings centered around the required timing for roadway construction and improvements that may help to discourage the use of residential streets, which included discussion on the possibility of 1, deferred timing of roadway construction connecting Kindred Drive and Diablo Avenue, 2, making Kindred Drive one-way in the direction of Maryland 450 between the entrance to the place of worship and Diablo Avenue, and to prohibit a right turn on Kindred Drive out of the facility into the neighborhood. 3, signage along Diablo Avenue for resident parking only. 4, right in, left out only for the place of worship's driveway, to prevent members using Diablo Avenue via signage or physical barrier like a channelized exit from the facility. And 5, alternative geometry for an angled approach into the place of worship's driveway to discourage members using Diablo Avenue. However, it was concluded that none of these options were viable or permissible in accordance with either the county road standards under Subtitle 23, Subtitle 24, or Subtitle 27. DPI further determined that the road construction could not be deferred and that the applicant would be required to construct the full road frontage improvements as approved with the preliminary plan of subdivision in conformance with the subdivision regulations and zoning ordinance. Concerning these matters, staff would note that the connectivity in general increases safety by reducing trips on surrounding roadways in order to reach neighborhood serving uses and providing more than one access to neighborhood streets for emergency vehicles. Subsequent to staff's meeting with DPI also met with the applicant's attorney, Nate Foreman, to further discuss these matters. In addition, Mr. Foreman emailed staff to summarize other possible proffers, which included 1, the posting of signs on the applicant's property to remind the congregants not to park on any residential streets beyond Kindred Drive. 2, a standing policy of the applicant to remind the congregants to avoid driving on any residential streets beside Kindred Drive. 3, seeking outside assistance to help control traffic and parking during services on Friday afternoons and/or major holidays and assist in those efforts. And 4, options for excess or overflow parking on major holidays. Regarding parking, it should be noted that permit issuance by DPI for a place of worship requires a certain number of parking spaces based on the number of seats proposed to serve the congregation. Compliance with approved permits and occupancy are required and enforced through DPI. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This hearing was closed on April 9th, 2026 and taken under advisement by the board. I know that Mr. Foreman is online. Mr. Foreman, are there anything that you'd like to add in regards to the things that we asked for during our last meeting?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can you hear me?
Yeah, 1 second. We can't see you.
Can you see me now?
No. Give us 1 second. Yeah. All right, we'll see you now. You may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the planning board. I do apologize I was not able to attend in person today, but I do want to say I appreciate the time, effort that the planning staff, the Department of Permitting, Inspection, and Enforcement staff went into this project and the cooperation that they have shown in ensuring that while we have met all of the technical and legal requirements for this project, we have listened to the community's concerns and we are going above and beyond what is legally required to ensure that we are taking steps to adequately resolve and allay any of the fears they have of this development. We look forward, should the planning board approve this preliminary plan subdivision, to being good neighbors, opening channels of communication should there be any issues, and that we hope we do believe we will be a benefit to the community, and we hope that we can all move forward and try to make this the best project it can be. With that, I would just ask the board to approve the preliminary plan subdivision. Thank you very much.
Mr. Foreman, if you can remind us of the things that you are going to proffer, so I understand exactly the good neighbor that you're going to be.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have provided that fence that will be along all of the existing residential property to make sure that there is control of the members and that there is a buffer or lack of intrusion or impact to the neighboring residential properties. As Mr. Bartlett has mentioned, we are willing to process a potential closure of Kendra Drive in accordance with subtitle 23. This, however, is a process that would have to be subject to DPI's approval and in accordance with certain enumerated criteria. If we are approved and Kendra Drive can be closed, the road would be constructed, but we would erect planters that would be at the intersection of Diablo Avenue and Kendra Drive to prevent vehicular traffic from going to and from the community, but it would still open the area for pedestrians and bicycle access. But even then, in addition to that, or if that's not going to be feasible, we will be willing to provide signage on our property that is there as a constant reminder to the congregants to avoid parking and driving on any street that's outside of Kendra Drive or the proposed place of worship. And in addition to the signage, we will have a standing policy with written and verbal reminders to the congregants to not park or drive through Glenview subdivision going to or from services. Moreover than that, we will review the feasibility of hiring police or other members of organizations or groups to help control traffic during regular services on Friday afternoons and on major holidays. And we believe that through the regulation of traffic, we can also help regulate parking during these events also. And finally, we will look at sort of options and explore different ways that on the major holy days where parking will probably be more in demand than the usual Friday service, how to adequately configure the site, manage parking with assistance from, as I said, the police or other outside organizations. Not only those options, but, we will also, of course, go through the landscaping process that's going to be required. We would do all the design requirements that are required should this be approved. But we believe that the impacts that will be felt in this project and this development and the fears the community has relayed to us will be adequately resolved and allayed through these proffers and procedures. So I think that summarizes the additional information and considerations we are going to explore and as part of the being a good neighbor. So thank you very much.
Mr. Foreman, I think this is what the community wanted to hear from you the first time that you came before the planning board. I think you mentioned it earlier that you met the legal and technical requirements, but to be a good neighbor, to ensure that there's a win on both sides, I think you made a lot of people happy with the words that came out of your mouth today. So we appreciate that, and I believe there is no one in opposition to what you just said. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve preliminary plan of subdivision PPS-2022-036, Type 1 Tree Conservation Plan TCP 1-2026-0001, and variance to section 25-122B1G, along with the applicant's proffer of a condition for fencing and the other considerations proffered by the applicant today and placed on the record, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff's report.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And Mr. Foreman, I vote aye as well. Thank you all so much for coming out.
Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
It was closed already.
That's not fair. We mailed you in the date that you are required. You all did not consider that's not fair.
The last item on the agenda is item number 7. The Community Planning Division, 2nd Branch Avenue Corridor Revitalization Sector Plan Minor Plan Amendment, and Sectional Plan Amendment. Once the folks leave out, we will hear from staff.
Government Chair.
Thank you. To Chairman Barnes and the Commissioners of the Prince George's County Planning Board, I say good morning. For the record, my name is Michael Calamise, Planner 3 in the Community Planning Division, and I am the Project Manager of the Minor Plan Amendment and Sectional Map Amendment for the Central Branch Avenue Corridor Revitalization Sector Plan. With me today is Corey Arsenal, a Planner 2 who is a member of the project team, Kier McCune, the Supervisor and the Project Facilitator, and Andrew Gillis, our Division Chief. Next slide, please. Today, I will provide background on the sector plan, followed by an overview of the planning area.
I will discuss the minor plan amendment as well as what amendments will be proposed. And I will discuss the sectional map amendment and finally provide a quick timeline of how we will proceed with getting the minor plan amendment and sectional map amendment approved and adopted. Next slide, please. So there are two maps here that we're looking at. Looking at the map on the left, you will see the plan area in blue, which is closest to the green line. Generally, this is the sector plan area is a linear corridor that straddles the Capitol Beltway and moves south along Maryland 5 Branch Avenue beyond Surratt's Road. Looking at the map on the right, we gain better understanding of the local context and more specifics about the plan area. The boundary has significant adjacency with Joint Base Andrews. You can also see the proximity to the Branch Avenue Green Line metro station to the north of the area at the top of this map. Also on this same map, you will see the identification of 6 focus areas noted on this map with yellow callouts and red dotted lines. The sector plan is organized around these 6 focus areas, which are central to the plan. These 6 focus areas are Beach Road, Allentown Road, Suitland Road, Camp Springs, Coventry Way, Clinton Commercial Core, and Southern Maryland Hospital Center. These 6 focus areas were identified in the plan for their significant growth potential and being essential to the economic future of the corridor. Also, along Branch Avenue, you can see 4 of the proposed stops along the planned Southern Maryland Rapid Transit line. These stations are proposed to be located along Branch Avenue at or near its intersections with Allentown Road, Coventry Way, Woodyard Road, and Surratt's Road. Next slide, please. So there are 2 purposes to this project. There will be a sectional map amendment that, if adopted, will implement zoning based on recommendations in the 2013 sector plan. Also, there will be a minor plan amendment that, if adopted, will implement the recommendations in the 2026 Medical Innovation Campus Feasibility Study. The study area for the Medical Innovation Campus is located in the Southern Maryland Hospital Center focus area, one of the 6 focus areas that I just mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. So I want to give some background to the sector plan, so we just level set. Community engagement and development of the plan took place between 2010 and 2012. The plan was initiated by the District Council in 2012 and was approved by the District Council in 2013. Next slide, please. So there are a number of goals that the sector plan was following, taking advantage of the following occurrences: the potential for future growth at Joint Base Andrews, the planned expansion of MedStar Southern Maryland Hospital Center, and the planned Southern Maryland Rapid Transit line. Next slide, please. The sector plan was adopted in 2013 without a concurrent sectional map amendment. The plan anticipated that a separate sectional map amendment process would take place upon adoption of the plan. Around the time of adoption, the zoning rewrite process was getting underway to modernize the zoning ordinance and propose a host of new zoning classifications. This process led to the adoption of the county's current zoning ordinance that was adopted in 2018. The countywide map amendment was adopted in 2021. This document provided old zones with new classifications. So I give you this background to say that the bottom line is that the Central Branch Avenue plan has been long overdue for a sectional map amendment that fully implements the sector plan's recommendations. Adoption of the sectional map amendment will fix this long-standing issue. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about start getting into the minor plan amendment. By county ordinance, a minor plan amendment is limited to not more than 50% of the applicable planned area and is not limited to a single parcel of land or landowner. A minor plan amendment addresses specific issues regarding public planning objectives. A minor plan amendment takes action to correct errors in the text or maps in the applicable plan. We attest that this minor plan amendment meets these standards. Next slide, please. So we are proposing amendments that will correct the boundaries of both the Central Branch Avenue sector plan and the 2014 Southern Green Line Station Area sector plan. We are also proposing amendments to update maps and tables for the Central Branch Avenue plan accordingly. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we're looking at here is an example of changes to the maps that we are proposing. Let's look at the map on the left. So in 2013, the published Central Branch Avenue sector plan boundary included an area that became part of the 2014 Southern Green Line Station Area sector plan. Said a different way, the map, if you go into the plan, the maps for the Central Branch Avenue sector plan, they look like the ones on the left. The red oval marks the area that needs to be changed. So now if we look over to the map on the right, that map shows the Central Branch Avenue plan area in red and the Southern Green Line plan area in green. This map shows what the boundaries for the two plans actually are inside the black oval. A number of the amendments we are proposing will correct these boundaries in the Central Branch Avenue sector plan. So going forward, the sector plan will have the proper boundaries in place. Next slide, please. So before I talk about more proposed amendments, I want to quickly discuss the Southern Maryland Hospital Center focus area. This area is the southernmost focus area in the Central Branch Avenue sector plan. This focus area is generally located east of Branch Avenue at its intersection with Surratt Road, and MedStar Hospital is at the core of this focus area. Proposed amendments are tied to the 2026 Medical Innovation Campus Feasibility Study, which in itself aligns with the vision for the focus area. I should repeat the sector plan's vision for the focus area as a compact, mixed-use, transit-supported medical campus. Through extensive public engagement and updated land use and market analyses, the feasibility study recommends an expanded development program for this focus area. Next slide, please. So we are proposing a number of amendments that will codify the 2026 Medical Innovation Campus Feasibility Study. These amendments would expand the future land use of institutional mixed use across the proposed Medical Innovation Campus area. These amendments will also update the sector plan's exhibits and language for the focus area, addressing the development program, connectivity and circulation, open space, and building and site design. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, this sector plan was adopted in 2013 without a concurrent sectional map amendment. We are proposing a minor plan amendment and a concurrent sectional map amendment, which will provide the sector plan with zoning that purposefully implements the vision and recommendations in the sector plan. This is a vision that was informed by public engagement that took place for the 2013 sector plan, as well as public engagement that took place for the 2026 Medical Innovation Campus Feasibility Study. Next slide. So finally, the District Council is scheduled to initiate the minor plan amendment and concurrent sectional map amendment on May 5. This will be followed by the joint public hearing with this body, as well as the District Council on June 29. We anticipate that we will be returning to this body for a work session in September, where at that time we will provide an analysis of testimony that was received from the joint public hearing. We are hopeful that after that presentation, this body will approve the minor plan amendment and concurrent sectional map amendment in September, and that the District Council will adopt both documents in October. Next slide. just want to say thank you all for your attention, and I will take any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions from the planning board?
I have one question. How does this plan, the Central Branch Avenue plan, mesh with the Naylor Road Metro, which is further south, further north?
Further north, right. There's not really much meshing in it except for if you take the southern Green Line plan, and then you add Central Branch Avenue plan, and then you add Subregion 5, which you may remember us from 2 weeks ago.
Right.
If you take all of those together, then what that does is that creates a continuance of recommended plans and strategies that would benefit Maryland 5 from the county line with the District of Columbia all the way down to Charles County.
Okay.
So other than that it's almost like just like Branch Avenue is essentially a jigsaw puzzle of those plans.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, the time is now 11:17. This concludes all items on today's agenda. I'd like to thank the staff and others for coming out today. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board.
Thank you.